Right. Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, wherever you are. Hello, hello. So excited to see everybody. Hi, Rachel. Yay. Justin Powers. Awesome. Cat Campion as I live and breathe. Cool, cool, cool. Well, all right, everybody. We're just giving everyone a second to hop on here for Ask the Sensei. Um, this is one of the few things that we actually do in December, because as probably many of us are feeling, it's December, holidays, I have no brains, I have so much to do. So excited that you could be here. Dan should be joining us in just a second. But if you want to put in the chat where you're joining us from, that is a fantastic thing. And we'll get started in just a moment. There we go. There's the people with the things. Hey, Jenny. People with the things. People's doing the things. Cool. And Barbara, good to see you too. Here we go. Valencia, Spain. Who's from Valencia, Spain? That's so cool. All right. This is not morning at all. Very good. All right. Well, let's see if Dan is joining us. Well, we'll get started, and Dan will jump in. He knows how this rolls. So, welcome everyone to the Ask the Sensei. This is the VO Dojo's monthly free Q&A. I'm Tish Hicks, Master Sensei here in Burbank, California. Our tech sensei, Dan Leonard, will be joining us shortly, and Q is our fearless moderator today, joining us from Albany, and we are very honored and there's Dan, and most excited to have Andia Winslow joining us as our guest sensei today. Hopefully you might have gotten to a chance to take in the 21 questions interview we did a little while ago. And if you didn't, you can catch it. You can catch it afterwards. But Andia has been, with strength and grace and power, really reaching the top of the voiceover world in a gorgeous way. So really excited to have you here. Dan, I see you. I see you here. I see you. Hello. Welcome, welcome. We can't quite hear you, and you look a little like you've been uh, captured in Russia or something, a little pixelated. But we'll get you there.
Delicious irony that our techno senseis have.
Oh, we can maybe hear a little? No?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Houston, we have
Okay, all right.
liftoff.
I understand what's going on. Okay.
All right. Hi, Dan. Glad to have you back. You've been traveling the world and celebrating. Good. You want to introduce yourself, Dan? Are you in a place to do that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Figure everything's all messed up in here. All right. Yes, I'm Dan Leonard, the home voiceover studio master. And if you have any questions on home voiceover technology, which all of you seem to have, because no one ever teaches you this stuff, for me and a few other people, feel free to throw them in the chat room and or however it is that we're answering questions this morning, and I will answer those.
Yeah, excellent. So we're here to talk about whatever questions you have on your mind. What have you been wondering about? Where are you stuck? what's the thing that you're like, oh, what is that next thing? Anything that's on your mind about anything at all? Andia, welcome. And if you could do a quick introduction of yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to, and then we will get to answering everybody's questions. And you can start putting questions in the chat, everybody, while Andia's introducing herself.
Well, thanks for having me, Tish. Hello, Q and Dan and Kat for bringing me on. I am Andia Winslow. I am a lover of burritos, well-made beds, and long walks in the woods.
And there you have it, the secret to a voiceover success. Awesome. I know we talked about this in the 21 questions, but Andia comes to voiceover from being a professional athlete, which I think is a really powerful place to launch into this career, because I think we need to have the determination, the strength, the mindset, the consistency, the ability to go through things not working as much as they do work, and keeping it all at that professional level. So super cool. Well, let's see. What questions do we have? You can put them in the chat, and then Q will bring it. You can unmute yourself and bring it into the room. Or since we don't have any in the chat, let's see. What questions are on your minds this morning? If you had, I mean, I think that it's an interesting time of year to have a moment to reflect on what has happened. Is it what you wanted? Did the year go the way that you wanted? If not, what's keeping you? What were you feeling like, if only I knew that? I feel like I'm vamping about defining what a question is. All right. Well, Jack, what's your question? There's one.
Hi. Hey, Andia. So first, I just want to say thanks. When I first moved here like a year ago, you were the first person I worked with it was like 2 weeks after I got here. And I think it was a cell phone commercial. It was something. We were neighbors or something. And it was T-Mobile. That's what it was. And we weren't even in the same rooms. Like we never even really saw each other. It was still like, but you were super nice and it was really fun. And then you connected me with community immediately, and I was brand new, and that really made a difference. I mean, it's been like a year now, and it's going great. So I just wanted to first of all say thanks for that. That was awesome. And then I guess my question is, it's about networking. Like, what are your networking strategies? How are they different now at this kind of stage in your career versus how they started out with maybe conventions, things like that? Like, how has that strategy changed, and what does it look like now?
Well, first of all, thanks, Jack. And I'm surprised it's been a year. I can't believe it's been a year. Yeah. I think when I first started, the idea was to meet as many people as possible, and not to necessarily get anything from them, but just to see what the space looked like and how the space felt and what the community was in voiceover as opposed to on camera or any other type of entertainment industry. So just being in the spaces where the people were, and that could be virtually, that could be in person. And of course it was pre-pandemic. So anytime I saw a networking mixer, anytime I saw a screening, anytime there was a bowling, I just went to everything so that I could meet as many people as possible and see where I fit or where I didn't fit or where I could potentially fit. Now I think it's about nurturing those relationships that have been made, especially post-pandemic, because there's not really a chance to meet new people. And I'm also really wary of being in public spaces still. I'm just highly sensitive to what's going on, and respect the nature of science. So I'm not really out like that, but I do nurture the relationships that have been built and those that I want to build. For example, with Tish, hopefully we can go for a walk. I'll just make sure that I just have to be more, I've got to be more determined to make those things work, because things are more difficult. It's a good question. I just think, anytime you see something, just see where you can fit in. If you can't get in, just make sure you stay in contact with those folks. Hey, I can't make this one, but can you please put me on your email list, your digest for future opportunities? And just talk to people. The Gardener group is a good one. VO Dojo, of course. I met Kat at a SAG after. Kat, was it SAG after Foundation we met first, or was it the
I'm pretty sure
AFI?
the foundation. Yeah, I feel like we bumped into each other all the time in the foundation, and then
Okay.
AFI too.
Yeah. So if you're in the union on the coast, either New York or LA, there's a Don LaFontaine voiceover lab in both places. Well, the Don LaFontaine lab is in LA, but there's also a parallel lab in New York City if you're in the union, and you
The
can join
EIF.
the simulation for free, and you can meet people. There's talkbacks, there's screenings, there's industry plenaries. So take advantage of those. The conservatory, the SAG-AFTRA conservatory is another place. VO Dojo is another place. Just seek these places out and ask your community on Facebook. I'd say is a good place to start. I hope I answered your question. Long-winded.
Yeah. Kat and I are actually teaching part of the mini intensive for the SAG-AFTRA Conservatory that's coming up tomorrow, right, Kat? Oh, I think that is happening. Yeah. Yeah, meet the people who are doing their things and get to know everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's some other questions. Thank you, Jack. Kat, let's hear your question.
Oh, hey, Andy. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad we got you in here. Yeah, I just, for those that didn't see the 21 questions, I did watch it and I learned a lot more about you. But just for anyone who didn't, I'd love to hear a little more about the arc of like, you were a professional athlete. What were all the different sports you were participating in at that level? And then like, how is it transitioning? I know that your athleticism is still very much, you are still a professional athlete. Yes. And then your athleticism very much informs your voiceover and on-camera career. So I'd just love to hear more about that.
Sure, thanks for asking. So I started in the world of professional sports. I was a professional golfer. I also ran, and I was playing. I was sliding in a sport called skeleton. It's a winter Olympic sport. And so I lived up Lake Placid, New York, sliding headfirst on my stomach down a track at 70 miles an hour, which is not the smartest thing I learned now, being concussed and leading with your brain. But on my respite, I would come down to New York City for a break, and I just fell in love with the energy of the city. And that actually, I want to go on a sideline here. I think the reason why I've found so much success in voiceover is because I've lived a life. I'm out living life. Voiceover, what informs your voiceover performance is not just you doing acting things and voiceover things. It's about being on the train, listening to people, how they talk. It's about people watching. It's about market research. It's about listening to people in real life and how they communicate, because that is your job as a communicator, as a voiceover actor or voiceover artist. So when I lived in New York City, I transitioned from actively playing professional sports to being a coach and sports performance coach. And I was coaching runners for the New York City Marathon. There was an agent who heard my voice in one of my coaching sessions who suggested I take it seriously. I didn't quite know what it was other than, the voice of a disembodied figure in commercials. My best friend got me vocal lessons. The coach at that time said, you might be pretty good at this. Please don't recreate, take it seriously. I kind of hemmed and hawed, and then I finally did, and then I booked something major. I was a must join in the union very quickly. In the union with no training, I didn't really know what was going on, and so that's kind of how I got into it. So it happened very quickly. And then after that, as we discussed in the 21 questions, I just took a year to learn everything. And Jack, I went to every event, every networking event, anything that said voiceover, voice artist, voice artistry, voiceover. I read everything, watched everything, looked at everything, asked all the questions, and there was no pride associated with asking questions. I just asked. And hey, you don't have to give me the answer. I'm willing to do the research myself, but can you lead me in a direction? Where might you suggest I go? I asked questions like that of everyone. And as a result, at the end of that year, I felt like I had an idea of what this business was, because it's not just about craft and art, it is a business. And I was ready to approach it as such. So that's how I kind of got into it. I moved from New York City to LA, joined the union. And then that next year of training after that, then I was called up to a big agency, and then I've been working steadily ever since.
Yeah. So the helicopter came, you got up, had experience of getting on the mountain, and you're like, and then you trained, then you did the work and had the patience and kept on the trail to have it all come together. Yeah.
And also I think there's this issue of overnight success, or how did you get that? A lot of people ask that are in my pocket, how'd you get that? Why did you get that? Yeah, it was a year of training, but again, I've been training for professional sports for 20 years. So the
Yeah.
discipline and the structure for being committed and being dedicated and directed in my efforts was already there. It wasn't just like I popped in, oh, this is something new. It's the same kind of training. I warm up my voice every day. I'm diligent. I eat properly. I hydrate properly. I treat my instruments properly. That's something that was trained in me from something prior to voiceover, but it actually carries over. So if you have discipline in another area, whether it be music or writing, or if you're a pool guy, if you're disciplined in that discipline can translate to your discipline in voiceover. So I think people sometimes think, oh, it's this divergent thing that I must learn completely new things, and that's true in some ways, but it's not also. So it's I guess what I'm trying to say is, you know more than you think you know. All of you do. If you're a parent, you know more than you think you do, and you can apply that to voiceover successfully.
Yep, that's what we talk about here, and that's the whole metaphor of the martial arts metaphor here of like here's the discipline that it takes in internal spiritual mind body spirit. Yeah, yeah, good. Um, let's see. Let's get let's skip down to a question for Dan. Dan, here's a question from Rachel.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I actually have a really specific question for Dan because I've been experimenting with recording, kind of trying to figure out how to do all that stuff. And I have a really noisy apartment, even though I have a pretty quiet space. There's a really consistent background noise. And I've been tinkering with isotope. And I'm wondering if you think that's a good idea to repair that kind of an issue, or if it ends up sounding kind of weird and artificial.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. You know, I have a very strict philosophy that everything is physical, and that, you know, you have a noise, you got to find where the noise is and where it's coming from. And if you have the ability to turn it off, turn it off. Trying to soundproof a room in an apartment or a house or something, literally impossible. But you can certainly eliminate the exterior noises. That said, everybody seems to be relying on these technologies like RX, and there's some noise reduction programs in almost every platform. I'm not a big fan of them because you have to know exactly what you're doing, and you have to know what it's supposed to sound like. And if you do it wrong, it will show. And you do not want the any engineer or producer on the other end to think, oh, there's a noise problem there. If you're using any sort of noise reduction technology, it's got to be absolutely transparent. Now, RX, you know, the isotope stuff is really good. The stuff in Adobe Audition is really good. The stuff now that's in Twisted Wave is actually pretty good. But if it's a specific type of noise, you have to analyze where on the frequency spectrum that noise is. Is it interfering with your voice? And is there a way to eliminate it without affecting your voice? If it's a really low frequency type of thing that is below your voice, and chances are, if you're, you know, as a female, your voice really doesn't go below 100 hertz. Yet most of the rumble noises that we hear from refrigerators, air conditioning, that sort of thing, is under 100 hertz. And you can just eliminate those frequencies without it affecting your voice at all. And that's much simpler, and it's not as invasive on the entire spectrum of the frequencies of your voice. But you know, the isotope stuff gives you the ability to do that. What program do you use to record now?
Logic Pro.
Oh, Logic Pro. Okay. Way too much for doing voiceover.
Way too much. But I have this free trial, right? So I have to try it.
Well,
I started with GarageBand, so
it's
it's
fine
like...
and dandy. If you're on a Mac, since you're using Logic, Twisted Wave is so much simpler and takes all of that guesswork out of the equation. If you're trying to learn multi-track recording on Logic Pro because you're a musician and you've got to mix, a saxophone and drums and all these different things, which I'm going to assume you're not, there's really no reason to be using a big multi-track program to be doing voiceover, because it's not your responsibility to add music. It's not your responsibility to do all that production. And people that think that they should are 20 years behind the curve, because the people that know how to do it have been doing it for 20 years. And it's a lot of the stuff is very user friendly. There are better, easier systems to use. And if you're trying to learn a lot of stuff about recording, that's taking away from you being a voice actor.
Awesome.
Dan,
Thank you, Dan.
can I add in my question? I was wondering.
No, I'm sorry, Kat. No, you're not
I
allowed.
have this awesome, my AKG C414 has a high pass filter in it. I live in Minnesota. Our heat kicks on, our air conditioning kicks on, our hot water heater kicks on. So that there's always the risk of the low rumble, and especially in live directed sessions, like I might not hear it come on, but it's being recorded. So what do you think about just, using something with a high pass filter, set it and forget it?
If you've got what type of a microphone do you have, Rachel?
I'm using the Sennheiser 416.
Okay, that doesn't have a high pass filter built into it. So you've got to probably do that in post. Doing it live, it's hard to put up front stuff on stuff when you're doing a live session with somebody. But a high pass filter is simply a graphic EQ with everything under 80 hertz or 100 hertz just turned down. And that will usually get your noise floor to where it needs to be. But the 414 that Catherine is talking about has a high pass filter on it. And, and there are other mics that do as well. Sometimes the high pass filters make the mic less sensitive. It alters the coloration of the mic. And you have to be very, very careful how you use it. If you do it in post, you have complete total control over what the sound is. And you have to use my acronym WHISTLE, which is what it's supposed to sound like. And if you're trying to satisfy your own ears, got to understand that you don't hire you, and somebody who's a professional who knows exactly what it's supposed to sound like needs to hear it. So I know that was a rather long answer for that, but hopefully that answers the question.
Well, it's always interesting how a simple question has so many things that need to be taken into consideration, the layers of understanding and looking at it from all the angles. So that seems appropriate. Yes, no.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see what
How about
let's
Nick's question? That'd be a good one to toss back to Andia.
let's go to Nick's question. Nick.
Hi, Andia, and hi, everybody. I was wondering, what's the biggest piece of advice you'd give to yourself when you were starting out now?
Thanks for your question, Nick. I was actually, Tish and I talked about this, and I was ruminating on it. It would be just to stay the course, because you really don't know. There's a lot of unknowns in this business, and also it's subjective. So I would just continue to tell myself, as I do today, still do the work, continue doing the work, and stay the course. And I know that seems rather simple. It's not a cop-out. It really is just, if you continue doing what's within your control, the rest of it will build as it should.
That's an interesting way to articulate it. What's in your control? I think a lot of the acting industry is built, has inherent in it things that make us submit and wait for permission and feel out of control. So it's a great mindset of what do you have control over, and how can you move forward with what you do have control over.
And maybe we should also clarify what doing the work is. I think that might be too big of a thought. Doing the work is, as I mentioned, treating your tools properly, the physical tools, your software, and actually the tools on your body, your voice, your gut health, all those things. It's responding to emails in a timely manner. It's warming up your voice. It's warming down your voice. It's making sure your sound design, your space is professional. It's, doing what Jack was doing, trying to figure network. It's all those things. It's doing your market research. It's listening to commercials. It's watching commercials. It's asking questions. It's reading the materials. That is the work that you can control at all times, and no one can take that away from you. So handle those things, and then no one can say, well, they're not prepared. Because what would really be unfortunate would be if you get called up for something and you're not prepared and you're not professional, and they never call you again. Versus if you do the work and have a solid foundation, and then when you're ready, you get called up and you do phenomenally, and then you keep it all back. So don't rush. Don't ask for handouts when you're not ready. Just keep doing the work, and I promise you, you'll see results.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank
Cool.
How
Well,
about,
yeah, please, go
I
ahead.
was just saying, how about we bring Jay in next so we don't forget him.
Jay's girl.
Oh, you heard. Sorry. That's what I get for not looking at all of the images on the screen.
That's me. So a lot of my question has already been answered, but so what I would ask Andia is, and welcome, I am inspired by, knowing as an athlete, a lot of the tools and skills translate over as far as perseverance, being a go-getter, learning how to handle disappointment when things don't go your way. So I'm curious with that, and everything that you've said so far, are there any challenges that stand out to you in particular in what may have happened during your course of staying the course?
Yeah, every day I fail. I'm a professional failer, Jay. That's what I do. The challenge is every single day I get knocked down. And it doesn't matter how good you are, how long you've been in the business or what level. So the challenge is the same for everyone. The challenge is get back up and do it again, as you mentioned. The challenge is continue despite silence, despite being siloed by yourself in your own space, despite maybe not getting feedback from your agents or clients, despite maybe not making enough money that money that you thought you'd make, despite having to be in this Dr. Seuss waiting land. Don't be there. Keep moving forward. And if you need to supplement your income or supplement things, you just got to eat it and do it. But the challenge that I face now is the exact same challenge that I faced before, but it's all a matter of perspective. And that's what's changed for me. Instead of like, I'm so eager and I'm desperate and I want it so badly that I couldn't breathe. Now it's just like, oh, this is just what this is. Understanding that these are the terms of this business. And if you understand that these are the terms of the business, then you can't be frazzled in the same way. Because that's just what it is. This job that we're doing, that we attempt to do, that we aspire to do, is auditioning. That's what voiceover is. Voiceover is not the studio gig. Voiceover is the auditioning. You're not being left out. You're not doing things wrong. People, even at the very top, the top voice actors, their job is to audition. And when they book a gig, that's a surprise party that you don't have to do the dishes for.
Yes. So we talk about the spiral of progression, right? There's a spark that starts it, and then we go here, and then we reach a next level, and then we start again and go on the next journey, and then it's the next. So it gets wider and higher, but you're still always in that, what's the next thing that you need to know, or the next things that will come up. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
What's next,
Barbara
Q?
and Terry seem to have basically the same question. Barbara, would you like to give voice to the question?
Certainly. Hello, Andia. Great to see you. And I've listened and heard your voice on many things. Are there any projects or things that you want to lend your voice to that, kind of like your dream voiceover gig? I know you're currently doing League of Their Own, so I know you're doing the on camera, but are there any voice projects that you would go, ah, if I could voice, because I know you've done so many. I'm just curious if you have any that you're willing to share.
Good question, Barbara. I think I was raised in Seattle, Washington. I'm from Alaska originally, so I was kind of born and raised with this kind of conservation ethos. I think I would like to do some things that kind of lean into my background in that way. So, Nat Geo documentaries, nature, conservation, basically messaging for the people to understand how important nature and the environment is. That would be really important to me. And then of course everyone wants to do animation because animation is fun. It is fun. Animation is fun, fun, fun. So more of that. And I think also, the Randy Thomas line of, the Academy Awards and Kennedy Center honors and things like that, because those are grand and those are events and you get to actually be with people. I've done a few live events, a few galas and televised award shows, and those are a lot of fun too, and very different. That's a different, it's voiceover, but I almost think it's more like being an MC. It's a different thing entirely. It's live. It's like game day. And so I think I try to find things that are new because they're challenges and I love a challenge. So I chase challenge. I chase whatever leads me in my curiosity. And I'm open to any and every, but yeah, nature, conservation, sports, anthemic, things like that, because that's kind of where I'm coming from. But yeah, nature docs, big events. Yeah, anything. Thanks for the question.
And can you share a little bit about what you have been working on in recently, or like what sort of things would we have heard your voice on?
Sure. Let's see. Currently running. I'm a reader for the New York Times, the Atlantic, and the Rolling Stone. So if you're a person that likes to listen to your news read to you instead of reading it yourself, you can find me doing those things. Commercially, I think what's on the air right now. I actually don't know what's on there. There's a lot. I'm not really certain. Video games, you can hear me in Call of Duty as an operator, Florence Carter, Counter-Strike Go, Saints Row, Nike spots. I'm on ESPN as a promo reader there, Fox Sports. I do a lot of things for sports branded things. My brain just and that's the thing too with my business and with my body of work. I just keep moving. I don't harp. I don't reflect too much. I just keep it moving. And I think that may be bad perhaps, but I just keep going forward. I just keep, and that's with auditions and that's with gigs as well. Just on to the next, because I think I like to be in motion, physically, mentally, and all that.
Yeah, yeah. What are the questions we have, Q?
I've got a question that was accidentally DM'd to me, but I don't know the name because you're just showing up as iPhone. So if you're the one who did that, come on in.
Dear iPhone, so glad you're here.
That was probably myself, Thomas Flowers. Yes, yes. Well, first of all, Tish, thank you so much for every month being able to come to us and being able to present, so many different questions. To Dan, thank you so much. All the information you've given, my coach Wendy Zier just exudes all of your great qualities. But the main question that I have today is, well, for our guest, is that was there one particular aha moment that you had in your VO career? I mean, so many of us go different places. They'll hear us and they go, you know what? You ought to do XYZ. But was there any one particular place that you went, this is what I want to do?
Oh, we can't hear you there, Andia.
There I am. Hello.
There you go.
And also you have an awesome name, Thomas Flowers. I feel like that's some dignitary. Okay, this is a story I've told before, but it still holds true. When I was doing voiceover, I was the voice of Dairy Queen for a couple years, and there was a different voice that I used for those commercials. It was a little higher. It was saccharine. It was higher in my register, more in my throat, that voice. And it's also the same voice that I use to talk to my dog, Alf. And so it's not my natural speaking voice. So I was home for the holidays, and Alf was sitting on my lap on the couch. We're just lounging, and the commercial comes on, and I was like, "Oh, that's my commercial." So Alf hears the voice. It's very high. He looks at the TV, and he looks at me, and he looks at me, and he kind of backs up, and I was like, "Man, I'm doing what I should be doing." I mean, it's kind of random. It made my dog happy, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm walking my purpose."
That's awesome. That's awesome. I always say that when you're working on video games, you know if your neighbors knock on your door to make sure you're okay, or if your significant others or children are like, "What's going on? Are you all right?" Then you probably are doing well on that video game spot. Wow. That's such a lovely articulation of the barometer. You were there living your life. This is on national TV. And your authentic voice, even though it was a different voice than your everyday speaking voice, your authentic voice connected with your pup, who you speak authentically with. And that's the full circle, right? Like that's the whole thing.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, that was our like private language that went public.
Did he get ice cream?
Of
No.
course, cup, yeah, cream.
Yay, good question, Thomas. And great to hear your voice in the room too. What else? What else? We've got lots of time today. It's interesting how time expands.
Looks like Patricia Russell has a question. Patricia, would you like to?
Patricia Russell, hello.
Hi, I was just trying to clarify through the chat. Thanks so very much. Andia, I wanted to just clarify something that you shared earlier. Thanks for being here. You talked about preparing for a year when you started. So my question was it a complete year of preparation before you did an initial audition? I do hear preparation. I do hear stay the course. But I do also hear I gotta pay some bills. So I'm just being real. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Patricia. Yes, I was still auditioning, but when I look back at those auditions at the beginning of my training to the auditions at the end, I wouldn't say I was embarrassed by those. Didn't reflect my best effort because I didn't know what I was doing. And really the aha moment, the eureka moment for me, aside from that story about the dog, was when I finally realized and lived in the fact that I didn't need to be anyone else or sound like anyone else. That's when stuff started clicking. That's when I started booking. I know this sounds very simple and trite, but the fact is, right now the trends are for authentic, girl, guy, they, next door, person in the know, talking to a friend. That's the trend right now. It wasn't the trend 8 years ago, but it's the trend right now. So all you got to do is just talk like you were talking to your friend about what sandwich you ate for lunch. Even if you're slurring your words a bit and being kind of sloppy in your vocals, that's actually what's in. So once I stopped trying to sound like a voiceover actor and sound like a transatlantic, I stopped doing that. And just what I would do is I would lead into it. Like, "Oh, Tish, oh, later I'm going to get a step. Next up on this and this and that and this and that." I just would lead in with a conversational tone. Like I was talking to a friend, talking to Tish, and then I would break into the copy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have a random made up conversation and then have the copy right there and lead into it.
Yeah.
And as a result, my reads started sounding more real, more conversational. I use my hands as I do when I talk normally. I would throw in some buttons. Oh, sounds, mouth noises, not mouth noises, but efforts. Don't do mouth noises. Like, the best place to get that item, the best sale is, did you know? I would just do stuff like that. It sounded more real. And then I started booking like crazy, just booking, because that sounds like what they were asking for. Not stilted, not over enunciated, not announcery. They want real. They want you, Patricia. They want you, Jack. They want you, Nick. They want you because they already have the rest. And you're competing against people who do this professionally, have been doing it for years. They don't need them again. They already have them. They need you because your perspective is different. Your lived experience is different. They need you. So I would say, to not answer your question at all, since I've gotten so far off of it, yes, during the time that I was training, I was still auditioning, but it was really not. I didn't know what I was doing, and I wasn't. I was putting on when I should have just been shrugging it off and just throwing it away and just being myself.
Mm.
And I started learning that towards the end of the experience, and the research that I was doing. I hope that helps a little bit. Does it? Did it?
It really did. No, you did more than answer. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. There's a couple things. The thing that comes up for me, hearing that story, you know, this is I hate being old enough to be like back in the day, like I have on the back of the day, well, back in the day, but back in the day when I first moved to LA, the way that things worked were that you moved to a major market, you got representation at a major agency. That was where the opportunities were. And everybody came each day together to record at the agency. So there was this flow of you'd go and be in the room and someone would be there and you'd be waiting in the waiting room and you'd be talking with them and like, oh, hey, what's going on? I'm thinking about this. What's going on? Yeah. And then, oh, hold on, I'm going to go in. And then you'd go in and do your audition with the director, and then you go out and say bye, see you tomorrow, right? So there was kind of this. We're all just talking here. That's so different than we wake up. We have to, we don't have we aren't talking to anybody, so we need to absolutely warm up our voices. We need to get it flowing, and we have to create that. We have to create that interaction juice ourselves now. It's different. We can't weep about it. It's just not that way anymore. But that's an interesting dynamic that's a little different. Yeah. There was something else too, but let's keep on going. Let's keep on going. Great stuff, guys. What else? What else, Q?
Let's throw one to Dan. I actually have a question that occurs to me. Dan might be the perfect person to ask. Since I moved into my new house, well, it's not a new house, but new to me. I've been noticing, especially when I'm doing long form recordings, I get these transient electrical noise that'll just like little hisses that'll pop in as I'm going along. I'm going back to editing the audiobook or something, and it seems to be random. I have no idea what's coming in, but I'm pretty sure that it's something coming in over the mains. Can you recommend a line conditioner or something that can help smooth that out?
It helps to know exactly what the noise is before you start trying to deal with it that way. And the fact is noises can come from a lot of different places, and I need to hear it because I can pretty quickly identify what the noise is, not necessarily where the source is, but you can tell by frequency and just by sheer hearing lots of different audio from different studios, what types of stuff are going to leak in. And it may not be electronic at all. It might be something very physical that you don't realize. If you're getting static or you're getting dropouts or you're getting pops, that's an issue with your hard drive and stuff. But I need to hear specifically what it is. It's amazing how people describe stuff to me. I've got a hum, I've got a buzz, I got a click, I've got static. And the fact of the matter is everybody hears things differently, as do I. But when I hear it, I know what it is I'm listening to and what its source is. If it's electronic, whether it's physical. If it's physical, then we have to deal with the physical, input of whatever that's coming from. If it's electronic, then you have to trace back, well, where could electronic noise or digital noise be introduced along your path? And that's what you have to analyze. So guessing and saying, well, I got a noise doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, if I were back in the lab, I'd be tracing down ground loops and doing all that kind of stuff. So it sounds to me like it's electrical noise, but I'll hit you up at some point.
Okay, well, you know where to find me.
And give you
because
a
I'll
sample.
be right here.
That's interesting. I I think what you're saying, Dan, is to know what it's supposed to sound like, and then I think there's something important about knowing what what is the flow of the what is the flow of the what is the flow of the signal chain, right? Where are the places that you can check things? I had something I I sent an MP3 the other day, and I happened to listen to it because when I heard it back, when I played it back in my headphones, it sounded fine. Then I listened to the MP3 and it was like, "Whoa, brr, brr, brr." And I was, "Oh my God, what is going on?" And then I went back and I went, "Oh, oh, I see. The settings for the MP3 was way low." So I had to go, "Oh, I see. There it is." But it took me a second. I'm like, "What is going on? Why do I hear it here? Why do I not?" So just even being able to, I don't know, just know where to look on the thing that goes to the thing that connects to that thing. Where are the places that you can that you look for, right? Here's the microphone. It goes through a cord. There could be a problem there. That goes into your preamp. There could be a problem there. That goes into your computer. That there could be a problem there. That goes into
Right.
the
And that's the way I troubleshoot stuff. What is the algorithm of this to this to this to this? I learned that one in middle school from my shop teacher, Mr. Soman.
Thanks, Mr. Silman.
Mr. Soman. It's like, here's how you troubleshoot a lawnmower. Do you have fuel? Do you have air? Do you have spark? There's certain things that you've got to check. And with voiceover audio, there's a very simple path, but people tend to try and make it really complex. Like, oh, I got to have a great preamp, got to have this. I've got to have this great microphone that's going to hear every noise within 3 blocks, things like that. So, yeah, there's another factor here as well. Is, as you were saying, you're listening on headphones and it sounded different in another way. How people listen to their playback has a lot to do with stuff. What are the acoustics of the room you're listening to playback on? If you've got studio monitors, if you're if you're wearing headphones, what type of headphones? Are you using a pair of earbuds, or are you using a really expensive pair of headphones that have a very flat response? And so a lot of times things get skewed by what it is you're listening back to it back on.
Yeah. Excellent.
Awesome. Looks
All
like
right.
Jack has another question.
Oh, good. Question 2 from Jack.
Awesome. Hey, oh, sorry. I was eating. That's why nobody wanted to see that. I had my camera off. Hey, so I see the Call of Duty, they're heavily code worded and everything, but when they come through, and I see them every once in a while. And how long, I guess, gosh, like how on book are they keeping you for that? Like once you got in there, because they always send the same. It's very generic. It's the same like 6 lines for those auditions, and then it obviously becomes this great character or whatever. But when you got in there, what and with your audition, how right to that were you?
Good question. I would say for military games, those barks are pretty much in every military game, regardless of brand. So the barks that you see, they're going to be in game A, Z. It doesn't really matter. So they're on brand, but then of course the character is more expansive, especially if there's narrative in it. So yes, I mean, I'm not sure. That's a really simple question. So what you're seeing in your audition will also be in the real live session. Sessions, if you're in the union, if your SAG sessions are going to be 4 hours or less, and they save the very strenuous dying, yelling, screaming stuff for the end so you don't tire out your voice. You can also, in that time, in that term, you can do more than one character. I think they can do up to 4 characters in the union. I believe I might be misspeaking here, but I think up to 4 characters in that 4-hour session. That's for one paid session. There are no residuals in video games, even though video games make more money than movies. That's something that a lot of folks have been working hard on. Video games are highly stressful. I think if you're auditioning for games and they don't give you more information about the project and they can't for NDA purposes, but you should find out, is this going to be a vocally stressful job? Then I might not audition for it, because let's say you book it and then you go and then you got to scream, and then you have vocal nodes. So video games are very interesting. It's, I know this is more than your question, but I think it's cool for people to understand. When you get copy for commercials, the copy's usually on 8.5 by 11. It might be double spaced, maybe 2 pages, you're done. Long form narration, sometimes it's, or e-learning, it's in cells on a spreadsheet. In video games, it's an Excel spreadsheet. You'll have an Excel spreadsheet on one side and you'll have a screen on the other, or maybe showing you some image or animatics. And then you're basically, it's more like data entry, it feels like video games. It's like line 1, here's the mood, what's happening. They might say something about it. 2 reads, next on to the next. There's no, let me feel it out. It's 2, 3. You move straight through that. Might be 300, 400, 500, 1,000 lines. And it's quick. Video games move quick. So you have to make your decisions and execute those lines very quickly. It's not like commercials where they're like, no, say this word, billboard this word, throw this word away, feel it more, make it feel like you're eating a Snickers on a rain-soaked mountain. It's none of that. It's like, here's a line, you're projected level 3. Here's a line, 2 takes, take A, cell 353. It moves very quickly. And you might get your entire game character in that 4-hour session or 3 hours because they move so fast. They have so much to do. So it's a different environment altogether. I think that's one cool thing about what we do is that people say, I'm a voiceover actor or a voiceover artist, but in which genre? Because the genres are all very different. Audiobook is way different than dubbing, because dubbing is like karaoke, but you also have to be on tune and on time, and live announcement, it's live. And then commercials are different, and e-learning is different, and animation is different. They're all very different crafts. So if you're saying to yourself, hey, I want to do all these things, each thing requires independent study because they're all very different. Promos are different than trailers. It's all different. So if you're interested in all those things, maybe make an inventory of what you know about each thing and then approach it. Maybe you do this for a month and you do this for a month because they're very different.
Well, it ties into being a professional athlete, right? Andia, you said I'm a professional athlete, and then you specified I work professionally in golf and I work professionally as a skeleton, right? So those are 2 really incredibly different sports. You are still a professional athlete, and I think if you think of it like that way, like if you think of each of the genres as a different sport, that you bring your professional level of being an athlete, and then each of those require rules of the game, how it rolls, what is required, what are the skills and talents that you have as an athlete, which apply to this, right? Because what you do as a golfer and what you do as a skeleton, well, actually, if you start breaking it down, maybe it's not, because it's all about physics and it's all about finding the flow. So maybe there's more similar. Yeah.
That's a really good analogy. And then for folks who don't do sports, it's like every musician, well, most musicians can read music, but a drummer is not the same as a guitarist. And then same for parents, let's say. Being a parent of a 2-year-old is way different than being the parent of a 16-year-old. It's the same general theme. It's the same sheet music, but it's completely different. I'm not a parent, but I've seen what y'all do and I'm impressed.
Yeah. And being the parent to one kid versus another kid is a whole another thing. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Did that answer your question, Jack? Was that?
Yeah, absolutely. What are those guys like over there? Do you do it at Activision, or do they book it out to another studio?
They book it out. I think the last time I was at Formosa, I've been to maybe 3 different studios, but listen, anytime you get to go into the studio, you know how it is. It's just wonderful to get out of your own booth, to see someone on the other side of the glass. It's very collaborative. You got the writer in there, or at least more than one writer, the creative director. You've got the session director. It's a good time, and it's really cool to hear from the people who actually wrote the lines, and they can express, why they did this, the impetus for this or that, or what they visualize. And then you read something and they're like, oh, I never thought about it this way. Let's try it this way. So there is kind of that give and take experimentation. And that's really, I think, what I love most about voiceover is the collaborative effort. If you really get the time to work with the creatives, you get to not develop the characters together with them, but you get to help bring what they had in their head to life, and maybe even beyond what they had in their head, which is really quite fun.
Yeah. And that goes along with what one of the foundational things that we instill at the dojo is there is no they, there's only we. Even when we send in our auditions, we are part of the process that's honing in on how is this going to come to life. the listening to the audition process is honing in. When we arrive at a studio or at a session, we are part of that whole workflow that team has been collaborating on. We are part of that team, and we do this part of it. Yeah.
Actually, I want to say something about that, Tish. I'm glad you said that I've seen in my experience, mostly pre-pandemic, voiceover actors. First, I should back up. I don't like the word talent as it relates to voiceover actors. I'm the talent, or I'm the talent. You have talent, but so does everybody else who's on this project. The engineer has talent, the mixer has talent, the creative director has talent, the person paying your bills has talent, the agent who booked you has talent, the person to clean the room has talent. We're all the talent. You're not special. I say that to say, humble yourself. You are just part of the process, and you're usually the end of the process. Replaced. So have some respect for the team you're working with. Be grateful for the fact that you got in the door, even to get the audition. Have some humility, because if you don't, no one's going to want to work with you. And also, that's like disrespectful to the craft. You have talent, yes, but you're not the only talent up in that room. And I think if people remember that, and remember that it's not just about you, it's about a team, it's about a village, or however you want to phrase it in your head. You are part of a system, just one part. If you respect that, I think things will also be more fulfilling, and you might have more success.
Yeah, you just articulated two of the rules of the rules 4 and 5 of the dojo. We are essential and we are expendable. There's no room for mediocrity. And cultivate beginner's mind, humility, curiosity, and determination. Those 3 things together that we have when we're beginning. I'm just beginning, right? I'm humble. I humbly come to, yeah, that's great. Yes, and yes.
Do we want to do one more question? Nick has one for all 3 of you, and that would probably
Yeah.
close out the session.
Yeah, that sounds good. Nixie again, or is there a different Nick here?
No, it's just me again.
Not just you. We don't want to be that humility. We don't have to be humble and not being like, yes, it is me, Nixie.
I know I'm exciting, but no, thank you for saying that last part too. The amount of people that I come from a development and production background, and the amount of people who could have benefited from that advice is humbling all in of itself. But my last question for Andia, but for everyone too, I'm curious to know about any work routines or like structures that you follow each day, and how that's kind of like evolved or changed as your career has gone on.
That's a really good question. Thanks, Nick. Hold up. let me ponder for a second. Give me a moment. Just trying to say it in right order. As I've progressed in my career, I've become more rigid in my consistency of the systems. The systems have become more rigid because they've been successful for me. But they're simple. I wake up early. I drink room temperature water. I do some push-ups. I do some morning journaling to myself. I take an hour walk. I do some push-ups. I warm up my voice while I walk. I drink some tea. I don't turn the exhaust on in the shower so that I can steam my throat while I'm taking a shower, but not too long because water conservation. I do some push-ups. I look at my emails. I respond to emails that are demanding attention right away. I look at the digest of auditions. I get started. And that happens every day. Even if I have gigs that day or things that change, that alter the schedule, those things never change. Me doing my push-ups, me taking a moving meditation, me warming my voice and drinking water, that never changes. Doesn't matter if it's a Saturday or Sunday or I'm not working. Every single day. And even the vocal warm-up, because I never know when something's going to come through, a pickup a client needs or some random Hail Mary session. Every day. Regardless of if I have a session at 9 or a session at noon or a session at 6 a.m. or a session at 3 a.m. with a foreign client, every day. And when I do those things, when I've done the work, my workflow in the day is so much better. And I've done the longitudinal study on myself. The days that I missed, I'll mark in my calendar. was not productive, or something was missing in the essence of who I am as a creative. Something was off. I felt off. I wasn't as productive. I made mistakes. But when I do those things every day, when I always move and drink water and hydrate and all that stuff, I'm just on point. So I hope that helps. Yeah, I think I answered it. I hope so.
Yeah. How about you, Dan? That's fantastic. Lots of what I've been thinking about Andia too. How about you, Dan? How do you roll? You've got a lot of various aspects to your world too.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I do so many different things, and so certain things have to take priority, and according to the missus, that's where my priority is supposed to be. So, yeah, I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and things have changed. I do voiceover work when they send it in and that sort of thing. But yeah, I have a morning routine. I get up, I have breakfast, I feed the dogs, all those things that you have to do. Meditation is a good one. I need to do that more often, do my stretches, get my body working, because it doesn't work as well as it used to. And those sorts of things. Yeah, absolutely. Vocal warm-ups if you're going to be doing work that day. But because a lot of what I do now is very administrative, there has to be a lot of time spent going over my email, looking over lots of different documents, and responding where I need to respond. I'm also president of the Industry Association of Freelance Voice Talent, World Voices, which you should all join. It's amazing how many moving parts there are to that. So my time management has to be, keeping track of what's going on. And remember these things, pens and paper and stuff. So I do a lot of that, and just keep myself on track. And but there's a lot going on in my life, and I gotta balance it out. So does it work for me? It's what works for me. Everybody's got to find their own rhythm.
Well, that's exactly the segue that I was going to make. That's the thing that I'm realizing. Like, what is it that builds the successful career? What is it that keeps it going? And I think one of the things that happens, we just had, I don't think Dawn's on the call, but Dawn is a blue belt in the Mystery to Mastery program. She's been showing up. She jumped right in immediately. She's been showing up. She's been showing up. One of the things we talk about is gather 100 no's. Gather 100 no's. Find joy in gathering 100 no's. So she gathered 108 no's and then started booking, and now she's been booking. So I think that there's something that happens, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and trying to implement it is the word we say in English, implement it as well. But how do you find that rhythm, right? That rhythm of where do we want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 90 days? Okay, in this 90 days, then what are you going to do today? Tick, 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 tick. So we get this boom, 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 and then there's a year, boom. Like, so it's almost there's almost a musicality to it. And then what are you doing every day? Tick, 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 tick. And I realized that, I think there is a proven thing of work begets work, right? When you're in that mode, it's not just because you get that adrenaline rush of, ooh, you do get that adrenaline, woohoo, it's session, great, awesome, cool. And then, boom, completely focused, right? And that's what we do. And then when we book, then we do that, we're in that mode, and then we book again, and then we book again. And when you're doing auditions, when you're in the mode of, in the competitive mode where you're in the mix, where doing your job of auditions, you're doing so many auditions a day. That's what you do. So as you're building, how do you get to that rhythm of I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this? I think that's the key. I also get up really super early because a lot of the opportunities are. It's interesting as you go. I was in Maui for the first part for most of the spring. You have to get up really, really early in Maui because New York is already halfway done when you wake up in Maui. So so just recognizing that, that there's a rhythm of a day that's already started in the business. So I get up early to make sure that I'm above that. So yeah, hopefully that's a great and I think it goes back, we can bring this full circle to what Andia said. More than trust that a lot. So start figuring out what does work for you and how do you become a little empirical about it. I did this, I did this, I did this. This day I didn't. What happened? So you have control of that and you know what works for you, right? Because what works for one person is not going to be what works for everybody. Someone else might do all their work in the middle of the night, right? Something like that. So I think that's a good place to bring it all together. Thank you all for being here. We do this the first Wednesday of every month. So I love that this has become a destination, seeing a lot of people here. Hi, Angel. We have a holiday party coming up next. It's this Sunday, the 11th, from 2 to 4 p.m. Do we have that in the chat queue?
Info about the holiday party? No.
Yeah,
I will
it's
put that in.
thevodojo.com/holiday/2022, but we're doing it in a space called Spatial Chat. So it's kind of like being in a video game, that you each have a token, and when you come closer, you can talk to people and you can go to different rooms. And so come and be together. And let's see, in terms of what's going on at the dojo, if you're not part of the dojo or want to know more how we can support you, definitely get on the calendar for a voiceover once over and we can talk. January session is starting right at the beginning of the new year. So we'd love to talk with you this week as soon as possible. Dan, how do people stay in touch with you?
Well, they go to homevoiceoverstudio.com, and I've got all sorts of, you can see all the services I offer there. There's also my specimen collection cup where you can send me your audio unprocessed so I can hear exactly what's going on in your studio, and I charge
You have
$25.
demons in your house. Those are demons.
What was that?
Oh, I was just saying the way the way Q described it's like those are demons in your house.
Yes, and I will exercise those demons if I will give you a thorough analysis of what's going on in there, and I do consultations if you really have no idea what you're doing and need some proper instruction, because nobody teaches this stuff except a small cadre of people that actually understand that you're not in a $250,000 studio that's acoustically neutral and acoustically sterile with a floated floor and really expensive microphones. You're in your closet. It's a totally different environment. So that's what I do, is I help you sound the way you're supposed to sound.
Excellent. And Andia, how would you like people to stay connected with you?
First of all, the specimen collection, I love it.
Go to my website and take a look.
That's amazing. I'm on social at Andia Winslow. My voiceover website is andiavoiceover.com. And if you're looking to watch something to binge this season for your consideration, please check out A League of Their Own on Amazon Prime.
Say again, it broke up. Say who you play again.
I play a character called Esther. Her name is Esther Warner. She's a pitcher. Check her out.
Awesome.
If you'll scroll up in the chat, all those links are in the chat, and you can save the chat real quick before we drop out of here if you want to have it ready.
Yeah. And we've gone a little bit over. Usually we finish right on. We thought if anybody wants to hang out and chat, we can do breakout room. We can either stay, depending on how many people are here, but thought we would if anyone wants to hang out and talk about what we've just discussed. That's one of the things we want to start doing for the new year. So if you got a roll, thank you for being here. We'll look forward to seeing you in January and at the holiday party. If you want to hang out and talk a little bit, we can see who's left and see if we want to break into one room or two rooms. And Andy, I know you have lots of things to do. Dan, I know you have lots of things to do. If you can hang out for a little bit, but you got to roll. You got to roll. Andia, thank you so much. It's so good to get to spend time with you, and you make everything seem easy because it
It's
is.
definitely not. You know what I think? It's worth the effort. I think it's worth the experimentation, and it's worth the failure. It's worth all of it. All that you're doing, all y'all are doing. That's the point. That's the point. So thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for tuning in and for the questions. And I wish you all the best in the holidays and your voiceover careers and all your future adventures. It's just a great community. So I'm really glad to be part of it. And thanks, Kat. Thank you, Q. Thank you, Dan.
Andia.
Awesome. Cool.
Bye.
Gotta run. See you. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Yeah. Let's see.
Tish, I'm going to hang out just for a couple of seconds with you.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Well, this is a small enough group. It's so interesting. We really take most of December off because of this very thing. I mean, usually we have like 7,500 people on this call, so it's already been a beautiful, intimate sort of thing. So, yeah. Well, what was your takeaways, or what are you guys thinking about after? Or what?
I loved, sorry, I'm just jumping. I love
No, go ahead.
Andia's share about just being natural, because I have always been extremely critical of my voice as a vocalist, and as a speaker. So it took me years to be able to be comfortable hearing my voice. People would hear one thing, but personally, I would be very critical about my voice. So what she shared about just naturally speaking, and just naturally reading was very encouraging for me, because I am just starting out investigating this. But I did want to ask a question, if you can respond to it, about determining your niche of speaking and voiceover. There's so many ways to go. How do you determine, or how do you how do you decide, or do you decide, or how do you decide where you want to put your energy, whether it's commercials, whether it's e-learning, whether it's demos? We get a lot of emails, but I'm like, I don't know. I mean, she really helped explain something about the video games. I don't play video games. I just don't have that coordination. So why would I want to do voiceover for?
Oh, well, I don't play either. I consider myself voiceover adjacent because I live in a house of boys, right? I live in a house with teen boys, so I'm video game adjacent. But they're like, "Hey, you want to play Spider-Man with me?" I'm like, "No, because I can't open the door. Like that's no fun for me or for you either." But I would love to be in that. I would love to be that. Right? So you don't necessarily have to separate yourself. And like anything, if it's something you don't know about, then you can choose to explore what it is. You might have an understanding of, oh, a video game, that's like, Super Mario Brothers at the arcade, which, has its own joyousness to itself. But if you're not aware of what is the experience of video games today, it's a whole nother realm of cinematic experience that is immersive. So it's worth, if you want to, exploring what it is. And like with anything in this, nobody cares if you do it or not, so you don't have to do it. However, one of the things that we talk about and explore at the dojo is, from the very beginning, how do you lay it out so you're aware of all of it? And then going back to that discussion of how do you train to be an exceptional athlete? that then knows how to play a lot of different sports or can play a lot of different sports. That's an interesting way to do it rather than I'm just going to do this, right? How do you keep yourself open to have a diversified portfolio? And then as you're doing that exploration, you'll start finding the things that you enjoy, first of all, right? The things that your voice naturally lends themselves to. You don't have to think about it too much. Like there's some people who come through the program like, "Oh my gosh, you have such a natural placement and how your voice works that would really lend itself to promo." And it's not everybody that you say that to, right? So there's a lot of people who may want to do promo and can build their version of their promo voice. And then there's some people who just naturally have that placement or that cut through or that sort of, so it's a combination of those things, right? You may have a great voice for audiobooks. The thought of sitting in a booth for hours on end reading and reading and reading might make you want to blow your brains out. So that's not a good choice for you, right? Your voice may be fitted. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I think it seems like a paradox. Like you do want to you don't have to do everything. And you will start revealing, like, here's some choices of where it makes sense, right? And then I think one of the other things that Andia really emphasized is listen, 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 listen. Sometimes we get, oh, like, I'm doing voiceover, I'm just in my box, I have this piece of copy. But are we listening to what's actually on the air? If you're working on narration, are you listening to 100, are you listening to 100 explainer videos? Because if you do, you're going to get a sense of like, okay, this is the rhythm of an explainer video. This is the structure of an explainer video. This is the tone of this one is this, like, and you should do voiceover in the narration department. There's in the narration section, I have a sample of an explainer video that I did for Burt's Bees. That's I'm just thinking of something else. That's basically an origin story of the company Burt's Bees, and then I have one that's for the National Resources Defense Council. So it's almost a political ad. Black tar thing is coming, right? But if you look at them side by side, structurally, and almost how the story's unfolded visually, it's a formula. Right? It's a formula. So you start understanding, oh, that's that sport. We have this that draws you in and hits your emotion. Coyote puppies, big trains with oil coming through. Dolphins flipping through big trains with oil, right? So we see what's happening in terms of how that story's happening. So I don't know. Keep on playing, keep on the trail. You don't have to declare pre-med, if that makes sense. You don't have to declare pre-med. Approach it like being an excellent athlete and notice where your talents lie. Right.
I'm doing the course, by the way.
Oh, good. Yay. Joni, you said, yeah. Like, I'd love you guys to talk to each other too. Like,
did you say me? Because everything Patricia asked was on my mind. I was
okay,
like,
good.
Yeah, I wish somebody would just say, you know what? Don't do commercials. That's not your thing. This is, though, your thing, so that we would have an idea of the direction to go in. Because but I love that. That Andia said, just stay the course, and you said, 100 no's. That's great. Get your 100 no's out of the way. Because sometimes, and I'm just going to say, Patricia, like, I'm a beginner too. And Tish will talk about there's no winners or losers. There's those who are chosen, right? And so we'll have those practices. And I'm never chosen. And
Yeah.
yeah, right, right. So just stay the course is it. Just stay the course. And because somebody needs your voice. Somebody will just love how you say something. It will, and yes, it might be, you might have to change something. Like for me, I have a really hard time with just being conversational and just kind of talking like that's hard for me because I don't speak that way naturally, but it's a learning thing. And so I'm like really listening to other people who are not as overly expressive as I am, that are calmer in their, I don't want to say calmer, but just, just different, more conversation. So it's just, I'm learning too. And I love every question you had. That was just great.
Yeah, good. Yay. Well, let's what else is going on for you guys? Angel, good to see you. How's everything going? Maybe she's here or not. Yeah. Good to see you, Justin. I haven't seen you since Catalyst. How's everything going?
Okay, I just want to say hello.
Oh, there you are.
Oh
There you are.
yeah, I am kind of like double dipping in terms of activities this morning, but I love to connect with you guys whenever I can, especially you, Tish. Your
Yeah,
your sensei meetings are an inspiration to me,
yeah,
and meeting
yeah.
all the wonderful people. I've been doing a little bit of dubbing.
Ooh, very cool.
Yeah, I got on the PML list or some kind of list, and I got
Hmm.
called by Horseless Cowboy, and
Yeah, that's great. That's
yeah, and so
fantastic.
and so now I'm thinking like, oh, maybe I should take a dubbing class because I did this before back in the day when I used to do more voiceover. I'm just getting back into it now, as you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But things have changed.
Yeah, and that's okay because we're adaptable. We're adaptable creatures, and
Yes.
you now are you completely out of the classroom? I know that when we were working, you
Oh
were
yeah.
for me.
Oh wow, you remember back then. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just before the pandemic, I left LAUSD. I was teaching. And for you
Mhm.
guys that don't know, I was teaching in the classroom for 12 years. I did that. But I've been an actress for over 30 years and I've done voiceovers and stuff. But I took a break and I did that. But now you know what I'm doing. I'm on set. So I'm a studio teacher.
Oh, that's so smart. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Cool.
transferred all my little skills and put it into being on set. And right now, I'm on the substitute list for the union to work
Mhm.
on the television shows. But I'm working mostly with AFI, the American Film Institute. Those filmmakers, when they're doing their projects and they have children, they have to have a studio teacher. So I've been working a lot with AFI film students.
Mhm.
That's my side hustle, so I can afford to do things.
Well, yeah, that's good and good and excellent that you got the dubbing thing going because that really is just
It's
everything
kicking
you
off.
need to it's doing the acting scene, but just
Yeah.
doing it in front of the mic, you have to literally be in the movie.
Oh my God, you got to be not only, I don't know who, anybody else here been doing it or anything, but a long time ago I used to do ADR stuff, but it's a little bit different, this dubbing thing.
Mhm.
And not only are you, it's like karaoke, the one that I did.
Yeah,
I guess
Andia said
this
that. I'm like,
karaoke,
"Oh,
guys. Okay,
yeah."
this is how I'll explain it. You know how you follow the bouncing ball?
Yeah.
Well, not only do you have to be in character, but you got to follow the bouncing ball so that you're on the numbers. So that's what I've been up to. I won't take too much time, but
Oh, that's
I'll listen.
great.
And
Great
it's
to get
nice
the
meeting everybody here today and listening in on what you're up to.
We'll come to the holiday party. There'll be more of just hanging out and
Yeah, I
hanging
will. That
out.
spatial thing is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. All right. Excellent. Well, anything else want to share or say what you're up to or How's it going? Good to see you. Storms, I know, in nth degree. Nick is burgeoning out on your own. It's good. Yeah. Yeah, well, Justin, I know we were talking about you jumping in and rolling. Let me know if that's still something you're interested in for January session. We
Well, I
can.
signed up for something. You were offering a package of something and it was discounted to $50 and I did that. And I plan
Pretty
on
good. Mhm.
getting involved with that after the first of the year. Right now, I'm just
Awesome.
shutting everything down, getting organized, dealing with the chaos you see behind me.
Yeah. Are you moving or
No,
just coming to the
just
close of
getting
the
the
year?
footprint for the studio that I'm building.
Hmm.
Finally have all the equipment with all the craziness of shipping and all that.
Nice.
Now I'll be putting it together.
Cool.
And then the
Cool.
other good thing is that post Catalyst meeting with casting directors there, I got hooked up with agents, and now I think I may, as of today, have found an agent.
Fantastic. That's great.
Twin Cities.
Yeah. Yeah, the Catalyst Festival is the Catalyst Storytelling Institute and Festival that happened at the end of September. That's where I met Justin. But really, really cool resource if you're, we're all well, what we were talking about, like what you can be in control of. Catalyst is a great resource for what can you be a content creator for, in addition to getting your skills so you can play the game, to be invited to play in other people's realms. How do you create your own content so you become the person who's hiring the people and making the choices? So, yeah, cool. Cool. What else is going on, Nick? How's it going? It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I was feeling a little bit under the weather the past few days, so I've taken it easy with auditions because of a sore throat. But Catalyst is going to be one of those things that I'm going to be getting more involved with in 2023. I have a couple of stories ready to go, and I'm going to participate in the storytelling and like pitch deck section of that. And I went to a few of the meetups in New York, and I've met Jen, the
Oh, she's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's
Jen Pleskey.
she's really tall, and and I was not expecting her to be that tall. And but she was a delight. I was there with a friend, and we got like, a happy tipsy, and she was more than a happy tipsy, and it was great. We hit it off right
Elation
away.
tipsy.
We hit it off, and it was great, and she basically like invited me to speak to her, which I did, and it was cool. But in terms of voiceover, I think I told you already. I finished up with my HBO show, which kind of
Mhm.
took up 200% of my attention for the summer, but that's all done. It's streaming. If anybody here watches true crime, I worked on the second season of The Vow, and which is streaming on HBO Max. And so I mean, it was great. Glad it's done. And so now, for the time being, for the past like 3.5 to 4 weeks or so, I've been kind of just taking some time to focus full time finally on building myself up for VO. I have a commercial demo recording date finally booked.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm going to be kicking off the new year with that, and
Mhm.
sort of launching, attaching that to a website. In terms of a website, I mean, as you know, Tish, marketing has always been my weakness. I don't,
Previously,
I don't,
previously in Nixie's life.
in Nick's life, marketing was previously an alien concept, and I'm
Mhm.
still currently working on that. But I've been reading up a lot. I've been reading Celia Siegel's book,
Mhm.
talking to some people who studied with her, and just kind of following some of those tips to figure out how I want to market myself. Because I mean, going through the program helped a lot with that too, because some things I initially thought I wasn't sure of, I just looked back in the notes and I was like, oh well, A, B, and C, and so I was able to sort of have a little bit more. It's kind of like what everyone was saying today, more than you might think you do.
Mhm. Mhm.
and just kind of reaching out to some people and trying to build that up. And so the goal is to kick off the new year with everything completely in place. And I already have I've been working on a bunch of different spreadsheets. I live and die by spreadsheets now. I've been working
It's
on
a
a
good,
bunch of different,
it's a good superpower to have as you start your business. As long as you make them, as long as you make them keep you in motion, like Andia was saying, right? Because
yeah,
spreadsheets can be something that we're getting ready to get ready. So it's awesome because having infrastructure and having the systems in place, which is something else we talked about today, that's awesome. And we just want to make sure that we're doing stuff to put in the spreadsheets too.
exactly. And I'm a guy who likes color coded stuff. I don't like looking at like blank spreadsheets. So I have like a color coding system of who's next to reach out to.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I've sort of just been following that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of have the pieces in place to start just, hopefully things will just kind of fall into place and be able to take off now that I've actually like taken the steps.
Mhm. Well, this sounds terrible, but take out the word hope
Mhm.
because you can't run a business on hope.
That's true.
You run a business on action, right?
Mhm.
And something will happen or something won't happen, and then you make another choice. Hoping something will happen is actually a dangerous business practice.
Right, yeah.
You can set a vision and intention and then take actions toward it, right? But hoping that something will happen is not a viable business plan.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
so yeah, I have pieces in place for plan A.
Yeah, it's good. And the universe has provided this it's like perfect timing too. But
Yeah.
you've been kind of pushing hard on both ends, doing all the work and doing your training, and now there we go. Clear path.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yay. Well, hopefully we'll see you on Sunday. Storm, are you still here? Do you want to share anything in the room? We're going to wrap up in just a sec. But if you're still here, there you
Oh,
are.
I'm here. I've just been in back-to-back meetings all morning, so I'm
Well,
ragged right now.
it's okay. It's okay that if this is like a podcast experience, that's awesome, but great to see you. Um, yeah. Anything you
Yeah,
want to share?
I've just been actually getting ready to do a couple of auditions and some quotes right now. But I just love my ears perk up anytime anybody talks about voiceover for video games because that's my love and why I originally got into voiceover by accident in the first place. So I perk up and I love hearing anybody talk about the thing that I love. So I was getting a kick out of
Cool.
everybody talking about it earlier. So yeah.
Cool. It's good for us who are either video game illiterate or video game adjacent to know people who are like, oh, video games, yes, because that makes it more friendly. It's like moving to another country. Come on, let's do it. That's fun. So,
That would be
yeah.
me.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, my friends. Well, thanks so much for being here. Justin, I look forward to when you jump into that launch pad. Let us know how it's going and love your feedback on it. And hopefully we'll see you all on Sunday. And Jenny, we're going to be jumping in. Oh, actually, I need to talk with you to see what you want to do in January. If you have a second to hang out, we can. Do you have one more second? Jenny?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was in the core program. I think I am.
No, just checking if there was anything else you wanted to do. So if making a
Oh,
switch up.
I mean, I'll stay on since you've asked. Sure.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna hang out with Jenny for a second, but have a great rest of your day, and we'll see y'all on Sunday, hopefully. Bye.
Bye.